Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How you guys doing? Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the delay, guys. Sorry for the delay. We had to start a little bit later. But here we are. Here we are. Sorry for the delay. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? What it do? What's going on? What's going on? Also, say what's good to Marco. Say what's good to Marco, and we'll get started. We're going to start this live a little bit earlier today, so we'll get it started like in 2 minutes. We're going to start a little bit earlier. Hey, winning like 96. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, you had me cracking up yesterday. Hey, how you guys doing? Justin, Ashley, Drew. You say you're depressed. No, don't be depressed, man. Don't be depressed. Don't be depressed. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Also say what's good to Marco, and we'll get it started in about 1 minute. We'll get it started in about 1 minute. So let me just wait for, let's give it everybody a few more seconds to get in here, and then we'll get going. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Okay, let's wait another minute. Let's allow everybody to check in, and then we'll get it started. We're going to start a little bit earlier today, and then as people come in, we'll allow them to catch up to the live. Also, make sure you guys hit the likes so we get more notifications out, and then we'll get it started. Let's wait another minute or so, and then we will get it started. Let's wait another minute or so, and we'll get it started. I know I actually don't expect a lot of people to be in here today because I know some people are still mourning what happened last night. But we had a lot of fun on there. We were on there chatting live on Dreamerspro Max, which Marco pinned to the comment section. So if you guys enjoyed talking basketball and stuff like that and chatting during games, you can also sign up to Dreamerspro Max. We got that up there. So also we got some content coming later on today on the channel. We're going to be talking about Kawhi. We got a video coming out about Kawhi a little bit later, where I go a little bit more in depth about that. So you guys definitely want to check that out. We got that video coming out a little bit later, so be on the lookout for that as well. Let's give it 10 more seconds and we'll get started. And make sure y'all hit the likes, and then whoever catches up will catch up as we go, because we're starting a little bit late today. Okay, so let's get it started. Let's get it started. Okay, so again, don't forget to hit the like button, and let's get it started. Okay, so I saw the game last night. Okay, I saw the game, and it was a tough loss, man. I'm not even going to lie to you. It was a tough loss. It was a tough loss, and it was a very, 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 very ugly game. Very ugly game on the offensive side of the floor. Very ugly game. Let me see, winning. Sending my ties. Thanks a lot, winning. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you for that super chat. Yeah. And it was a very ugly game. And I know going into that game, I felt that it was going to be a defensive tug of war. I said that yesterday before. I think we did a live. Was it yesterday? I'm not sure if we did a live or a video, but I know we said, I think it was yesterday. I'm not remembering right now, but I said it was going to be a defensive tug of war. I said it was definitely going to come down to shot making at the end. That was one of the things I said. I said it was going to come down to shot making, at the end, and it looked like I was right. It looked like I was right. But listen, the game did have a very disappointing ending overall. Now, this is what I think before I get into kind of the breakdown of what happened. I think that fatigue finally caught up to the Clippers. I think that the Clippers finally ran out of gas last night. That's what I think. Listen, these guys have been playing every other night now for the past month. They've been playing every other night for the last month. That doesn't even happen in the regular season, guys. In the regular season, they give you at least one. I mean, at least there's some cases where you may have 2 days off in a row. Some days you may have 3 days off in a row. Then you have All-Star weekend. There's so many different breaks and pauses in the season. I remember this from covering games, that you would get break points at different points in the season. But this particular team has been playing every other night for the past month. And I think yesterday, they just ran out of gas. They just ran out of gas, in my opinion. They struggled in that first quarter. They struggled. Now, during the game, when we were on Dreamerspro Max, we were talking about the way Paul George was playing. And we were like, yeah, even me, I was like, why is he taking so many threes? Why is he taking so many threes? Why is he settling so much? Why is he settling so much? Why is he? Then it finally began to dawn on me that Paul George didn't have his legs anymore. Paul George was settling because he just didn't have the energy to keep driving. This is what I believe. I think PG ran out of gas. I would have liked to see him get some shots closer to the basket, like, post ups, trying to score at the elbow points. But at different points in the game, he tried that. He settled for those threes because he was simply tired. And if you look at a lot of Paul George's shots, if you go back and look at his shots, you go back and look at the highlights of his misses, a lot of those shots were hitting the front of the rim. Whenever your shots start hitting the front of the rim, they're grazing the rim, they're barely touching the rim, it means you have no more legs. It means that you have no more legs. I think I've watched so many different pieces of content on basketball players, and whenever you see basketball players jump shots usually falling short, it usually means they have no legs. Because for jump shots to work, you need your legs. And if your legs are fatigued, you're going to get tired. I mean, your shots are just going to be, they're just going to fall short. And for people that are not really factoring that in, I think you need to. Imagine this. Imagine that you're working out at the gym. Imagine, I'm sure some of you guys go to the gym. Imagine going to the gym every other day for a month straight. Now, also imagine on some of those off days, you're traveling. So you go to the gym the next day, instead of just staying home and resting, some of those days you're also traveling from city to city. Imagine that on the days where you're supposed to be recovering, you're supposed to rest. But in these particular cases, you're flying. So the Clippers were not able to get and then you're talking about going to a gym for an hour. We're talking about playing a professional basketball game for 48 minutes. A professional game, which has much more high intensity than any kind of workout you're going to do in the gym. I'm sorry, there's no workout you're going to do that's going to replicate a 48-minute basketball game. That's what these guys were going through for the past month. So when people were like, oh my God, this and this, and I think they just simply ran out of gas. And it told in that first quarter. Most of the Clippers, they weren't making any of their shots. Do y'all realize that Paul George has played about 700 minutes these playoffs alone? Do y'all know PG is the number one player in the playoffs when it comes to minutes? Do y'all also know of the top 10 players in the playoffs so far, in minutes played, 4 of them are Clippers? Listen to what I just said. Of the top 10 players in the playoffs that have played the most minutes, 4 of them are Clippers. You know who the other 3 are? Nicholas Batum, Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Marcus Morris Sr. These are the 4 players. The Clippers starting 5, 4 of those players are in the top 10 minutes, played the most minutes in the NBA this season, in the playoffs. They haven't had any rest. And I don't understand how the NBA could have scheduled this thing where the Clippers don't even get any rest period, where they get at least 2-3 days in a row, or at least 2. Not even 2 days. They're just coming in and out of series, in and out of series. Other teams are finishing series. They're getting 1 day, 2 days off. But in this particular case, guys have to get up again and keep playing over. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. And it showed last night. In that first quarter, the Clippers shot 28% in the first quarter. When was the last time you saw the Clippers shoot 28% in the first quarter? When was the last time you saw that at all? They were only able to score 20 points in the first quarter. In the second quarter, it was even worse. They were only able to score 16 points. Think about that. 16 points in the second quarter. They finished the first half with 36 points. As a team, They shot 29%, 29.5% from the field in the first half. The only one, I mean, everyone struggled, but I think the only player that was actually producing was Ivica Zubac. I think Ivica Zubac was the only one that was producing. And I thought that some people were saying, oh, the Phoenix Suns are so good. The Phoenix Suns are so good. Listen, I don't think the Phoenix Suns are that good at all. I'm going to be the first person to say it. I don't think the Phoenix Suns are that good at all, to be quite honest with you. I don't think they're that good at all. If the Phoenix Suns were so good, why weren't they able to blow out the Clippers if they're so good? Why weren't they able to blow out a team that is undermanned? They struggled against the Clippers, not just in this game, in other games. You can say, well, okay, they didn't have Chris Paul for their first 2 games. Okay, fine, granted. But they do have Chris Paul now for the last 2 games. The Clippers have been without the best player in the world for like the past 6 games. So I don't feel like the Suns are that good at all, actually. I feel like if the Suns are so good, why couldn't they beat the Clippers? Why are they struggling to beat this team if they're so much better? So listen, I never thought that the Suns were as good as the Clippers. I never picked the Suns to beat the Clippers if they were healthy. I always felt that the Clippers were better than the Suns. And I think that it was just clear in that second half that the Clippers missed Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers miss Kawhi Leonard. They needed Kawhi Leonard. I think people are forgetting the fact that the Clippers are playing with their best player. I think we're kind of like now in a reality where things that are not supposed to make sense is what people are trying to make sense. If that makes any sense, if that makes any sense. I know that's like a triple, whatever. Who in their right mind would criticize the Clippers for being down 3-1, regardless of how these games have been played, when they're without their best player? Who would do that? Like seriously, who would do that? Except if you're a troll. Except if you're a troll, then obviously we know trolls behave in a different type of way. So trolls are not there to really make any sense. Trolls are there to get under your skin. And I had to find it. I found that out the hard way. You know how I know? Somebody left a comment on one of our videos. The comment was so outlandish. I mean, it was so like out there. So I responded to the guy, and you know what the guy goes? You know what the guy says to me? He goes, yeah, this comment, because I think I wrote something like, what? And the guy goes, yeah, this comment that you drew, the comment was so outlandish that it got you to respond to it. And I was like, oh, I see. So they're not there to make sense. What they want is a reaction out of you. I said, oh, I see. I get it. So only people like that, the refs stole 2 from us. This without what Kawhi should be up. Yeah. You know, Abubakar, I agree. But sometimes, man, things just kind of, you get an unfortunate bounce. Sometimes it happens, but I understand what you're saying. I'm trying not to harp on that because we can't really sit here and go over, missed calls. Yeah, I saw it. So listen, the Clippers shouldn't even have been in that game to begin with. Given all the circumstances, given the fact that they don't have as much rest, given the fact that they're without their best player, for the Phoenix Suns to be out there struggling, that should say more about the Suns than it should say about the Clippers. I think that's fairly obvious. Now in the third quarter, the Clippers were able to somehow gain some life because in that third quarter, they outscored the Suns 30-19. Somehow they were able to generate a quarter where they scored 30 points and the Suns scored 19. But by the fourth quarter, listen, the Clippers were just out of gas. By the fourth quarter, the Clippers ran out of gas. They went through, I think, a 6 or 7 minute stretch where they didn't score not even 1 point for like 6 or 7 minutes. For like 6 or 7 minutes, they didn't score a single point for 6 or 7 minutes. And I was like, is this an NBA team? But while I was there being critical of the Clippers, I also realized that the Suns weren't also scoring. I think at one point the score was like 73 to like 71 or 73 to 70 for like 5 minutes. Like everybody was missing shots. The Clippers have an excuse. Number one, they're undermanned. Number two, they're fatigued. What's the Suns' excuse? What's the Suns' excuse? Why couldn't the Suns score? Yeah, the Clippers are playing great defense, but what's the Suns' excuse? And I heard Kendrick Perkins say that he felt like the Phoenix Suns were going to win this game because of Cameron Payne. Thanks for that, Edwin. 70 to 71. Yeah. He felt like the Suns were going to win this game because of Cameron. Cameron Payne was a non-factor. He was a non-factor. That's why I was surprised that so many people were making such a big deal out of him. He scored 29 points. It's like, okay, do it again. Like, it's not something he was going to be doing all series long. I just think that they ran out of gas. The Suns had a bunch of days off, so I don't know what their issue was. But I just think that the Clippers, listen, they got tired and they didn't have their best players and they simply didn't make shots. It came down to who was going to make shots at the end. And it looks like the Suns made one or two more shots, made one or two more free throws, and they ultimately won the game. Clippers are good enough to beat the Suns without Kawhi. Ty Lue is just blowing it. PG got to step up in the fourth. Appreciate that. Appreciate your comment. Appreciate your comment. So they just simply couldn't make any shots. And I think that this was ultimately bound to happen. This team has been running on adrenaline and fumes for the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And they're without their best player. They're without their best player. Now, I want to talk about the coach. I want to talk about Paul George. And I want to talk about Kawhi Leonard. I want to talk about that right now. Please make sure you guys hit the likes so we get the notifications out. I really want to spend some time to really focus on this here. I really want to talk about this here for a second. I really want to focus on this. I want to, first of all, I want to start off by talking about Ty Lue. And I want to talk about the criticism towards Ty Lue. This is where I kind of break away from most people here. This is where I believe that we at Dreamers Pro, we need to stand out. And this is where we stand out. Because I know a lot of people are saying a lot of things, and I'm going to give you guys our take here, our own fresh take. I'm not following what anybody else has to say. Truly, I'm not. But I've been reading some comments over the last 24 hours, over the last 16 hours, 12 hours, whatever you want to call it, 18 hours. And I've been hearing that a lot of people have been criticizing Tyronn Lue. I also know that I've been critical of Ty Lue in the past, but we did a video about a month ago where I said I was not going to question Tyronn Lue ever again. And since that point, I have not questioned Ty Lue. So I want to say this quickly about Ty Lue. If we're talking about a regular fan, a regular viewing basketball fan, or a Clipper fan, I have to say you have no right to criticize Ty Lue. Absolutely zero right. You cannot be serious if you're going to criticize Ty Lue. You just can't be serious. Because if you're going to criticize the coach, it means to tell me that you're going to ignore the fact that the Clippers have been playing back-to-backs for a month. You're also willing to ignore the fact that the Clippers are without the best player in the world. And if you're going to ignore those two facts and still criticize the coach, let me ask you, Is Ty Lue a wizard? Is Ty Lue like is he a magician? How are you expecting the Clippers to win every single game that they play without their best player and being fatigued? Some players being injured, banged up. Like, how is this supposed to work? How is it when the Clippers win, Ty Lue is the next Bill Belichick? When they lose, he doesn't know what he's doing. Help me understand this. Listen, we got to talk about this because I feel like some people have the wrong expectation. I feel like the expectations that people have are just totally unrealistic. Help me understand this. 2 days ago, Ty Lue was a genius because he started Terrence Mann. He started Terrence Mann, and Terrence Mann was out there balling, doing all of these different things. So, if in that instance he's a genius, how is it that somebody can go from being a genius to all of a sudden not know how to coach a basketball team in a span of 2 days? How does that happen? Which is it? People need to make up their mind. If you believe Ty Lue is a bad coach, please just say he's a bad coach, period. If that's what you believe, that the guy is a bad coach, no problem. You have a right to believe that. But you can't be saying one day he's a good coach and one day he's a bad. You need to make up your mind. Ty Lue is not a bad coach. He is experimenting and he's trying to get the most out of his group. Some nights players don't play well and he's experimenting. You see him start. It was Ty Lue that started Patrick Beverley. If we're going to criticize the coach, isn't it the same Ty Lue that started Patrick Beverley that did not play Patrick Beverley much in the second round and started him, and he's the one that's been affecting Devin Booker? So if the Clippers win that game, I guess Ty Lue is a genius. But if they lose, then he doesn't know what he's doing. No. I don't want to hear any critique of Ty Lue. Really, I don't. I really, really don't. I think the Clippers should be happy and they should feel fortunate that they have Ty Lue. Seriously, you don't get to criticize Doc Rivers and say, wait, Doc Rivers didn't make adjustments, which he didn't. And you saw that same thing happen in Philadelphia with the Philadelphia 76ers, and then turn around. And then when you have a coach that does make adjustments and you give him credit for it, but the night he decides to do something else, all of a sudden he doesn't know what he's doing. No. It doesn't work like that. Some people are saying, why didn't he start Terrence Mann? Because he didn't start Terrence Mann because Marcus Morris Sr. is a better player than Terrence Mann, and he's better suited for that lineup. Number one, he's a 6'8" power forward. Terrence Mann was starting, I think, because Marcus Morris Sr. didn't start that last game. If Terrence Mann was such a good player, why didn't Terrence Mann start all season long? Terrence Mann is a good player, but he's not better than Marcus Morris Sr. Who believes that? Seriously, who believes that? The coach knows what he's doing. If the Clippers make more shots, we're not even talking about Ty Lue right now. And I think people are trying to find a way on who they want to blame. And the blame has to go on somebody, but nobody wants to take into account the variables at play. Nobody wants to take fatigue into account. Nobody wants to take the fact that Kawhi Leonard is injured. It always has to be something else. It can't be the fact that the Clippers are just not at full strength and they're just gassed. So I don't want to hear any criticism of Ty Lue. You have the right to do it, but I don't agree with it. I'm not going to criticize the coach. I've given the analogy probably about 400 or 500 times now. I've said, it's like being in a relationship with someone. One day, you're the best person in the world. And you're like, this is an amazing relationship. The next day, it's like, I want a divorce. This is the worst. You can't be in a relationship with people like that. They're too wishy-washy. So pick a side and please just stay there. So I don't want to hear any criticism of Ty Lue. Just two days ago, people were talking about he's Bill Belichick. And now today, Ty Lue doesn't know what he's doing. I don't want to hear it, please. I don't want to hear any criticism of Ty Lue. Let me get to Paul George. I also want to talk about Paul George here. Listen, people have been critical of Paul George because of how he's played in some of these games, how he missed some late free throws, etc. Should Paul George have made those free throws in game 2? Absolutely. You got me. Absolutely. Should Paul George have made some of his late game free throws yesterday? Absolutely. He should have. He should have. But you know what? The Clippers wouldn't even be in the playoffs right now if it wasn't for Paul George. Let's just be honest. The Clippers would not even still be in the playoffs if it wasn't for PG. He wouldn't. They would not. Who's the player on the Clippers roster that's going to get you 26 points per game, shooting 42% from the field, 33% from the three, 83% from the three-point line, 9.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and almost a steal and almost a block per game? Who's the player that's going to do that? Who's the Clipper? Type the Clipper's name. Who's the guy? Who's the guy? There is nobody. So for as critical as people are being of PG, we wouldn't even be in a position to criticize the Clippers right now if it wasn't for Paul George. Terrence Mann. Somebody said Terrence Mann. I forgot what I was watching. I was watching an episode of Rate These Bars. And they had West Side. What's his name? One second, let me get his name. I think it's West Side Guns. Griselda. Let me see. Griselda rap. Let me see. I forgot. What's his name? West Side Gun. That's his name. West Side Gun was there. And they kept on throwing out these trash bars, like some of the comments I'm reading. And he was like, yo, come on, man. Are you serious right now? Like, yo, you playing with me? He took the paper and just threw it away. Like, some of these comments, man, I just got to throw these comments. Like, it's like, yo, come on. Anyway, put some respect on Paul George. If it wasn't for him in the game, he missed those free throws. They wouldn't even have gotten. Exactly. Thanks for that. I'm winning 96. Exactly. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, what are we talking about? I don't want to hear anything about Paul George. Now, if you say that, listen, at the end of this season, given everything you've seen of Paul George, you feel like, listen, the Clippers are not good enough with him. They need to go in a different direction and try to get another player. No problem. We can have that conversation. Maybe if they feel like they could be somebody else, no problem. But if you're criticizing Paul George and there's nobody else you have better to replace him, people are talking about Terrence Mann. Like, somebody said Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann. It's like, do you watch basketball? Terrence Mann. Why didn't you say Amir Kofi while you at it? Like, come on. So anyway, I don't want to hear anything about Paul George right now. Let's talk about Kawhi Leonard. So some people have been asking, why isn't Kawhi playing? Why didn't he play? Listen, I cannot speak for Kawhi Leonard. No one else can. I read a comment where they said, Kawhi Leonard is pulling another San Antonio Spurs. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? So what are we saying here? That what? That the Clippers should let Kawhi Leonard go? Is that the road we're going down? Is that the road we're going down? Who in their right mind would say that? So listen, given the circumstances, the Clippers are not supposed to win. You don't get better as a team when you lose your best player. You don't get better. I think a lot of people were kind of under this illusion of, oh, the Clippers, yeah, they can really win it all. Oh, the Clippers got worse when they lost Kawhi. Most people haven't come to terms with that yet. They got Worse, you don't get better as a team when you lose your best player. It doesn't work like that. They got worse. What's happening is they had role players that are now being asked to play even better than they normally would. You have players like Reggie Jackson stepping up. You have players like Terrence Mann stepping up. You had other, but these players, they normally don't play at that level for an entire season. They normally don't. You're asking players to do more than they can. Talking about Paul George. Who here ever criticized Paul George of being the best player in the world? Who has? Paul George is not the best player in the world, so why are you expecting him to play like it? Why are people expecting Paul George to beat Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard? He's not as good as these guys. If he was, he would be in a different situation, but he's not. People don't realize Paul George is not as good as Kawhi Leonard or Kevin Durant or LeBron James. So why are people surprised when he doesn't play at that level? I don't get it. And it all comes down to managing your expectations. They don't have the right expectations. I'm seeing a lot of emotion, but I'm not seeing any people saying anything realistic. So that's another thing. Marcus Morris Sr. Marcus Morris Sr. has been up and down all these playoffs. One game he's good. The next game he's not good. One day he's good. The other game he's not good. So there's so many things to take into consideration. But I think people need to manage their expectations because some people are just not being realistic. They just are not being realistic. What did you expect was going to happen? It's like people are saying the Clippers should be good. Like, okay, Kawhi Leonard is not playing. It's like that shouldn't matter. What? In the NBA, you need talent. Look at the Lakers. The Lakers had LeBron James. But even LeBron James wasn't good enough because LeBron James needed help. Number one. Number two, Dennis Schroeder or whatever his name is, these guys weren't even playing well. So how is this supposed to work? Is it magic? So listen, I feel that people need to kind of manage their expectations. I think people are expecting a little bit too much than they need, than they're going to get. Like Kawhi is not playing. I don't know what people are expecting to happen. That's why I've been cautious going into these games. The reason they were settling for jump shots is because they didn't have enough energy, so you settle. Thanks for the comment. They're settling because these guys are spent. They're settling. That's the reason why you see them taking these long jump shots. And if you look at those jump shots, some of them were barely grazing the rim. Some of those shots were barely grazing the rim. It means they're fatigued. I don't care what you do. If any of you guys play basketball or go to the gym or whatever it is, you try going to the gym back to back for 1 month without and like really going hard because these guys are playing NBA games. You try doing that for every month. Then on one day you get to stay home and rest. The other day you get to travel and see how you'll feel at the end of a 1 month period. Let's see how effective you'll be on day 29 when you're trying to bench press in the gym. Let's see what happens. Let's see how effective you'll be. I think we're just expecting things from people that is not going. Terrence Mann is a better defender than Morris, a better playmaker. The team, Morris is not better than Terrence Mann. Morris is a work. No, I would disagree. Marcus Morris Sr. is better than Terrence Mann. I hear your opinions, but I respectfully disagree. Paul George is fatigued. Clippers are leaving their hearts out on the court. Thanks, Clippers. It's not over yet. Kawhi Leonard. No, thanks for that, Edwin. Thanks for that. I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised to hear some of these comments from the Clipper fans. Seriously, I'm quite surprised. Like, I'm very surprised. Is making free throws too much to ask? Yeah, I understand that. But let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. Are we going to blame these last 3 games on free throws? Really? That's what we're going to choose? We're going to isolate free throws and say that's the reason they lost? What about all those missed threes? What about those missed threes? Why aren't we factoring in those missed threes? Why aren't we factoring in that? I think it's just we got to look for somebody to blame. That's all it comes down to. The blame has to be on somebody. Like we just I don't get it. Like the blame just has to be on somebody. If you want to blame them, go ahead. If you want to blame them, go ahead. I guess that the Clippers making the conference finals for the first time is nothing. It means nothing, right? Like, oh, okay. So what? We made the conference finals for the first time. That means nothing. All throughout the play, for the majority of the last week, when they were coming back, when it beating Utah, everybody was calling Ty Lue a genius. Just 2 days ago, he was Bill Belichick. And now today, all of a sudden, he's a terrible coach. They should trade Kawhi. All right, you tell me. You tell me. I don't get it. I don't get it. Whatever. I don't get it. For people to be criticizing this team when they know good and well this team had no business being in the Western Conference Finals after they lost Kawhi. Everybody knows this, except the people that don't know it. And for people to be criticizing this team for given the fact that the Clippers have not been blown out in any of these games, they keep fighting, and at the end of it all, you're going to find a reason to criticize them? It just means you're ungrateful as a fan. It means you're just ungrateful, period, end of story. What did you expect? It's like, what did you expect? What did you expect? Like, seriously. It's like you have a company, you guys set out with a goal for 2021. You say, we want to make $100,000, right? And then you find yourself in June, you've made $65,000 when you had a projection of making 40. You get to the end of the year, you make 80,000, and the year before you made 20, and you're complaining, oh, why didn't I get to 100? It's like you didn't even get to 100, you didn't even get to 50 last year. The Clippers were out of the playoffs in the second round last year. This year, they make it to a conference finals without their best player, and people are complaining. People are complaining about the coach. When they got to the conference finals, everybody was like, oh, Ty Lue, he's so much better. Thank God Doc Rivers is gone. Thank God he's gone. Now all of a sudden, Ty Lue doesn't know what he's doing. Really? Really? Yo, I don't know what to say to some people doing that, man. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say. Listen, the Clippers, they have fought as hard as they could. I saw Ty Lue said that they can come back and win 3 straight. Can they do it? Possibly. Possibly. They could. Possibly. Yeah. Am I banking on it? No. 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 I'm not banking on it because I understand what this team is facing. I understand what they're facing. They're facing a uphill battle. They're facing an uphill battle. So, I mean, what are we expecting? Like, what are we expecting? They're facing an uphill battle, man. They fought really hard. The rest were bad. I agree, man. I agree. Looks to me as if both teams are tired. It's not like Phoenix had a great shooting night either. Phoenix had a bad shooting night, but I don't know if I can blame it on fatigue because Phoenix has had so many. Remember, Phoenix, they were just coming off of 5 days. They swept the second round. I think the Denver Nuggets, they swept them. So they beat them. So I'm not sure if fatigue is what stopped the Phoenix Suns. I'm not sure because I don't really understand why they would be fatigued. They haven't been playing that much basketball. The Clippers I can understand, but I don't understand how the Phoenix Suns were fatigued. To be quite honest, I don't. I mean, it could be a factor, sure, but I just don't understand it. The Clippers I can understand because you can go by the numbers. For the people that are coming in late, I've already said of the top 10 players that have played the most minutes these playoffs, 4 of them have been Clippers. 4. Nicholas Batum, Paul George, Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris Sr. are in the top 10 of minutes played, and Paul George is the number 1. So, I mean, again, are these guys robots or what? So, I mean, to me, I think they're just, and for them to still be out there playing defense, competing, most teams would have given up. So, if people want to complain, then I don't know what to say. to be quite honest with you. Going into game 4 on Monday, I don't know if Kawhi Leonard is coming back. I thought that he was going to come back in game 4. He didn't come back in game 4, so I don't know if he comes back. I don't know what the situation is with Kawhi Leonard. Last time I heard, they said he was having some swelling in his knees. So I don't know what happens with Kawhi Leonard, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what happens with him. And I'm not banking on him coming back anymore, actually, because now they're in a 3-1 hole. So I don't know if he comes back. But to this point, we'll have to see. But listen, I think this team, they've gotten very far, given what they have, given the amount of rest, the lack of rest that they have, given the fact that their best player is not playing. I have the right. I think I have the right expectations. Now, if some people are waiting for a miracle, sure. Could it happen? Absolutely. Am I banking on it? No. Not only have the Clippers played the most games in any team, they had the toughest opponents as well. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thanks for that, Skinny Timmy. Deacon 69. I say they're tired because the Clippers D is making them work. Oh yeah, I agree with that. Look at this guy. Look at Patrick Beverley. No one is going to accuse Patrick Beverley of not playing great defense. This guy put Devin Booker in a straitjacket. Some people thought, okay, maybe it was his mask. He removed his mask. He was still playing great defense and missing shots. So they're doing their best. But they're playing a fully loaded Suns team. And I think if there's any team you want to look at sideways, you need to look at the Suns. How is it that the Suns, who are at full strength, can barely beat the Clippers? They can barely beat them. Barely. Like, I don't know what that says about the Suns. They're playing without their best player, and all you can do is beat them by 4 points. And people are talking about the Suns are great and the Suns are much better. No, it's just that you're a troll and you're looking for a response. You know, some people are talking about, oh, but this guy, he talks so much. Meanwhile, they're sitting here for 50 minutes. I don't get it. It's like somebody goes and stands under the rain and is complaining that they're getting wet. Go figure. Adam Silver wants the Suns in the finals. I don't know what he wants, but I think the Clippers did their best. And I think going into game, what's the game? Game 5, I don't know what to expect because now they got to get back on the road again. And we got to see what happens. Now they got to get back in the road again. And we got to see what happens. Will they win? Possibly. But I just think that when you're missing your best player, I just think it's hard. And maybe it's just me. What do I think about Paul George? I think Paul George has had a better playoffs this year than he had last year. I think Paul George has shown you that he's a very good star, but he's not Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Stephen Curry. I never thought he was those guys. I think Paul George showed you that he could step up in the playoffs, but he has a cap. And I think it makes perfect sense. I don't think people should be surprised when Paul George doesn't play like Kawhi or Kevin Durant. He's not Kawhi and Kevin Durant. First time the Clippers did not get out-coached. Yeah, I would agree. Some people feel otherwise, but I would agree. You know? So, people, again, people are talking about Paul George. Paul George is not Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was shooting a higher field goal percentage than Joel Embiid. But how many Kawhis are there? So why are people expecting Paul George to be Kawhi? I don't get it. It's like, do you know the players your team has? Are you aware of the players that your team has? What are you expecting? That's the only thing I don't get. Like, what are you expecting? I don't get it. People have this kind of weird expectation of things. I don't know. I don't know. But I think I've answered everybody. I think I've gotten all your questions. I think I've answered all of your questions. So real quick, again, I noticed that some of you guys also been sending us some cool stuff, some good information on. We also read some of our IG messages that you guys send. So real quick, if you guys can follow us on IG, let me get the quote. Let me get the link here. Let me get the link here and share with you guys to get you guys to see if you follow us on Instagram. Let me get the link here. I think if Marco can post it, he'll post it. Let me see if I can get it. I'm not sure if Marco's posted. Okay, I'll post it here. So if you guys follow, okay, Marco's posted it. Great. So if you just follow us on IG, I'll give you a quick shout out because we do read some of our IG messages. Shout out to Sam. He's one of the members on our channel. He sent us that photo of Kawhi Leonard at the practice facility with the team. He was with the team. I think he was doing film study. I think he probably just wanted to be a part of the team. But apparently that's not something Kawhi Leonard does, right? The media says Kawhi Leonard is never with his team, right? Only Chris Paul and these guys are good leaders. So whatever. So make sure you guys go ahead and follow us on IG. We really appreciate that. You guys can get into contact with us there. We're definitely starting to spend a little bit more time on there as well. Also, with the playoffs wrapping up, we're also going to start. Who's that? Mr. Big Stuff. Hey, thanks for following us. Hey, appreciate that. Mr. Big Stuff, thanks for following us. I see you in there coming in. Appreciate that. But I think, listen, this team has done their best. And I think, whatever happens, they had a great run. Am I giving up? No, but I'm just managing my expectations. Ballmer was disappointed. I saw him there with his head down after Paul George missed those free throws. But whether or not they want to keep Paul George at the end of the season, that's up to them. But we're going to see. Like, I think the guy did the best that he could. And I think people should be grateful that they were able to break through. I think if they end up losing ultimately, I think there's some good that came out of this. We got a video coming out a little bit later today where we're going to be talking about Kawhi Leonard. So make sure you guys definitely check that out. I'm going to give you guys my kind of full, extensive thoughts on Kawhi Leonard and whether or not he should play or whatever it is. So be on the lookout for that. Really appreciate that. So once again, guys, thank you guys for being a part of this live winning like 96. I see you. Everybody that joined us, we appreciate it. And also make sure you go ahead and follow us on IG. Also, if you guys want to talk basketball, make sure you guys sign up to Dreamerspro Max. We got it there for you guys. Once again, man, thank you guys for being a part of this live, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Catch y'all later. All right, peace.